Good Friday morning to you. I am recording my devotional and then I'm getting in my car and I'm driving to the Redwoods. I'm going to see and explore God's amazing creation this weekend as I rest and renew. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about these ginormous trees that exist just almost in our backyard. Sometimes I think we take for granted the sheer size and ability of creation in this world. I wonder how often we take for granted the sheer size and ability of God in this world and in each of our lives. Last Saturday, I heard an incredible message on what does it mean to have a God-sized mission, and what does it mean to have God-sized prayers in response to that mission. I was thinking about that. As we read the Bible, we have all sorts of instances, all sorts of examples of what it is to have a God-sized mission. Moses led the Israelites out of slavery. He stood before Pharaoh. He proclaimed what God had given him. No fear. Well, I'm sure there had to have been fear, right? But he did so because God had filled him with the Spirit. David faced a giant. As a young boy, he faced a giant with a slingshot and a couple pebbles because God raised him up to be that leader in that place. Joshua was leading the Israelites around Jericho, leading the trumpeters, and day after day until God declared this was the day when the walls would fall. I think about last weekend or when we had the text out of Matthew, Peter getting out of the boat, coming to Jesus on the water in the eye of a storm. There's a lot of occurrences throughout the scriptures of God-sized missions. There's a lot of examples of how, if we are tuning our prayers to God, if we are focusing our whole selves on what God is speaking to us, great things occur. Great accomplishments are made. And if you think that you haven't been part of that, just step back, take a moment, look at your life. Imagine if God wasn't the center of it, what it might look like. And if you're still new to faith, if you're still figuring out where God fits in your life, step back, take a look. Because everything that you have, everything that you are, was created by God. And not only created by God, but created by God in God's image. It's a pretty powerful reflection. Now, the second part of this is God is big enough to give us a great mission. God is big enough to inspire us and to empower us to do things that are beyond our reason or understanding. But God is also big enough when we doubt, when we're not sure, when we need just a little bit more encouragement. I think about Abraham. He wasn't quite sure how he would become this great nation God had promised him to be. And so for a moment, he took things in his own hands. Moses wasn't quite sure if he had the strong enough voice to profess what God was speaking while they wandered in the wilderness. And so God gave him his brother Aaron. Thomas needed to touch and feel Jesus' side and hands, to know that it was real. I don't know what you need today, but God does, and God will give it to you. Sometimes we think that doubt is the absence of faith. I disagree. When I see scriptures, I read that doubt is part of the essence of faith. For us and our human understanding, to truly understand God, to truly imagine God, sometimes it takes a little doubt for us to be broader, to be bigger in our thinking. It's okay. Don't worry. I don't know what you need today, but God does. God wants us to be part of a God-sized mission in this world. As a church, as a community, as families, as people gathered together. All we need to do is trust and believe and set our prayers to God-sized prayers. There are no limits. There is a caution, though, because a God-sized mission often isn't our desires. A God-sized mission isn't about our needs. Our needs are met. Our wants are often surprisingly taken care of. But when we focus on God, it's not us. I like to joke that when God's voice sounds like my voice, I know I've fallen on a different path. That's the reality for each of us. If we're truly listening to what God speaks to us and in us and through us, it's going to sound different than we might imagine. It's going to sound different than we would say. It's going to challenge us in ways we least expect. But remember, there's no limits when it comes to how God is at work. And the Bible is full of so many stories that remind us of this truth. When God is in charge, when God is at the center, with God there are all things that are possible, as the Hebrews writes. Today is going to be a great day because it is a day to think about all that you've accomplished this week, to really wrestle with what has God accomplished in and through you. It's a week to end and then get ready to begin. Maybe a little difference in orientation, maybe a little bit more attention to where God is at the center. I know today I'm going to look at some pretty big trees, and I am going to stand in awe and wonder, not just of those trees, but as my life reflects to the ginormous powers of God in this life. I hope it's the same for you as well. I don't know what you need today, but God does. And I pray that your prayers are God-sized prayers. Have a great Friday.